In today's video, I'm going to share my custom Framemeister profiles for the Atari 2600 using a VCR. The Atari 2600 outputs a lovely video signal called RF, combining the audio and video signals into a legacy RCA connector that really isn't useful anymore. The first thing you need is an RCA to coaxial adapter. This passive device should cost just a couple of bucks and will allow you to connect your 2600 to most modern televisions. Of course, the Framemeister does not have a coaxial input, but it does have composite. The easiest way to separate the audio and video signals from the RF signal is to use an old VCR. Connect the coax connector to the VCR's input and use standard RCA cables from the VCR's output into the Framemeister, and we should finally be good to go. Before we get started, let me also get a few things out of the way. First, as of this video, the most recent version of the Framemeister's firmware is 2.03a, so I am going to assume you are using this firmware. Next, you should reset all of your settings by going to Data Reset from the Framemeister menu. This should reset everything to their default values, but won't change any of your previously saved profiles. Now, I do have some personal preferences, including square pixels over a 4:3 aspect ratio, as well as perfect integer scaling, meaning horizontal rows are all the same size. First up is my 1080p profile. This is a perfect 5x scale with even pixels. Thankfully, due to the strange resolution of the Atari 2600, there really isn't any cropping here, which is nice. So with that, here are my 1080p 5x settings. Next, let's move on to my 720p profile. This may be useful if your television only supports 720p resolutions. If you're like me and can only capture 60 frames per second video at 720p, and of course 720p is preferable if you're a scanline aficionado. These 720p settings will give you a perfect 3x scale, and again, because of the Atari 2600's strange video output, there are no issues with cropping or borders. So with that, here are my 720p 3x settings. If I'm honest, the Atari 2600 has some horrendous video quality, and the Framemeister is certainly not equipped to clean up this amount of analog noise. Still, these settings should give you an adequate experience on the big screen.